Happy New Year, Cancer. I can't believe it's 2020. Thanks for joining me here. Great to have your company. To those of you that are new, this is going to be a very brief cramming of 2020 into 7 or 8 minutes. But I want to focus on what I think are the key points here, because 2020 for you, I think is going to be fairly significant. Some important eclipses are going to take place throughout the year. And the first one on the 11th of January takes place here in the first house, your sun sign, which is all about your identity, Cancer. It's all about who you are. And the moon, which is going to be obviously part of any eclipse, the lunar eclipse, is going to be doubly significant for you at this important outset of the new year, the new decade actually. Notice over here the intense combination of planets. We saw that last month, and I'm not going to go through that too much further for now, except to say that relationships are going to hinge on this new sense of identity. A lot of additional responsibilities could be there. Or could I say that you may be taking on those additional responsibilities when that's not necessarily needed. So that's part and parcel of your personality trait, as you know, caring and nurturing other people. But I'm just wondering whether that's damaging you, and whether the message for you, at least in the early part of the year, at least for this first eclipse, is that you've got to, just cut the ties there with people and stop feeling as if you need to be somehow joined at the hip with them, especially family members. The second eclipse on June 6 for you is important. That shifts the energy away from this sense of identity to health and well-being. So your health is going to be focused around the middle of the year. And by the way, the eclipses normally give their effects after the time of the eclipse. So it's not just something that's going to happen on the date that I've mentioned. These are energies that are brewing and continuing and will continue to give their results. Then again, in the same month, a solar eclipse coming back here into your sun sign. So you can see how the energies move around, but when they start to converge on one area, which they are on your sun sign this year, so 2020 is definitely a year for you to reevaluate your relationships, your health, how those relationships are affecting your health. And notice here also that the position of the North Node and the South Node, these are the karmic points. This is where your soul came from in the past life, where it's moving in this life. The desire that you have, because desire is the fuel that propels your soul forward into what we call the transmigratory process. And so if you're unaware, if you're an unconscious being, you'll be dragged down into the mire of an ocean of desires. That was a nice bit of poetry. I didn't mean to say. Anyhow. But if you're a little more aware, you will realize that these desires, what you desire for yourself, are sometimes the things that are obstructing you from your true self. So I think this is an important lesson for you. The first eclipse, January 11, then the second solar eclipse on June 21st. Then we see July 5th lunar eclipse taking place in the 7th house. Bang, here we go again. So we see this oscillating energy throughout 2020. Sun sign, 7th house of relationships. One's own self, yourself, Cancer, and the people you're doing business with, the people you're married to, the people you're associated with, the people you're in love with. The most important relationships in your life are dictated by this area of the zodiac and by these very, very important eclipses that we see emerging throughout 2020. Big changes take place there. Note also that when the South Node, as I mentioned earlier, is in this area, something has to be sacrificed or lost. Also, these 2 points are what I call Indian givers. This one in particular, it promises something but is often short on delivery or takes it back. So the lesson there, I think, Cancer, is that you need to develop a high degree of dispassion. Dispassion and discrimination. In other words, open hands. Don't grasp too much. Enjoy what's coming, but be prepared to let things go. As I say, I've got a lovely maxim there that I love. What comes, let it come. What stays, let it stay. What goes, let it go. So I think that's the lesson for that specific karmic movement in your horoscope this year. There are 2 more eclipses, would you believe? A lot of eclipses this year. The sign of Gemini, here your 12th house of spirituality. And that, I think, is a follow-on from what comes, let it come. What stays, let it stay. What goes, let it go, is all about this 12th house, letting go. It's to do with the 12th house. It's to do with charitable works. It's to do with what you lose. So it is very intimately linked to this South Node and talks strongly about those things that you have to remove from your life or let go of. The final eclipse is in Sagittarius, again, the health area. So you've got 2 there that movement of the North Node on May 5th, and then this important solar eclipse on December 15, and this has to do with your health, your well-being. It also has to do with debts, what you owe other people. And it's true too. You're probably wondering why I'm talking about the debts and karma when it's associated with the eclipses, because the eclipses always take place on this nodal or karmic axis. So eclipses are very karmic in nature. And that eclipse taking place here in your 6th house shows the debts. The previous November 30 eclipse also has to do with this. You see the axis here is the 6th house, the debts, 12th house, what you have to let go of. But this is actually a nice house. A lot of people don't like it. Once you've divested yourself of things, and mind you, you should practice with the things you don't want. So elimination is a very, very important component of this process for you in 2020, Cancer. Knowing what it is you've got to get rid of. Practice with those things you don't want. And then you can get rid of the things that you're really, really attached to, because even those things are going to drag you down. I'm not saying you have to get rid of everything, but minimalism seems to be the key word for you throughout this coming year. 2 other transits I want to talk about briefly before I leave. That's the transit of Saturn, which finally, after doing the to and fro, from here in your 7th house into the 8th house of intimacy and shared resources, and also the backup transit of Jupiter, which moves here. So I think the latter part of the year is going to see an important opening up of deep self-understanding, self-transformation, which readies you for the year after, which is 2021. I'm going to be talking about each of these different months next year in much more detail. I hope you'll join me to find out more of that detail. In the meantime, you can get the full year in focus. I've written 3,000 words on 2020 vision for Cancer at astrology.com.au. Drop me a line here if you've got any questions. I'm sorry it's a bit of a rush, but I've got lots of other star signs to get through too, but that's why I've done the 12-month focused reading for you there. And we'll follow up month by month. Hope you'll join me. Take care now. Bye-bye.